Hi folks, Brian here. When I was editing the video tonight, I discovered that the audio is really bad. It has an echo in it. I don't know why this happened. The third story we recorded together does not have an echo in it, so there's no rhyme or reason to it. So enjoy it if you can. If you can't, I can't blame you. So anyhow, take care and I'll see you all tomorrow, hopefully with a better, less audio glitchy story. Howdy folks, I'm Brian.
I'm Amber.
And here's some Reddit. Our first story is titled, Am I a Jerk for Calling Out My Girlfriend Over Her Cat Obsession? I'm not kidding. I'm a 36-year-old male and my girlfriend is a 35-year-old female. And she is obsessed with her cat, a 10-year-old male. If you're interested.
Which of course we are. The cat is the important part of the
cat
story.
is the important part. We've been dating for 3 years and living together for 2. Since the pandemic, I've been home a lot more and have just realized how cat crazy my girlfriend really is. They do everything together. She doesn't need an alarm because he wakes her up at 7:30 every day by sitting on her chest and gently nudging her face with his nose. He eats breakfast while she eats hers. If we're watching TV, then he's on her lap. If she's working at her desk, he's in the chair with her or chilling nearby. If he acts even a little weird, like hiding in the closet, which I guess he normally doesn't do, then she's on the phone with a vet. She even takes him for walks with a little harness that I used to think was kind of cute until I realized it just meant her obsession would not be just limited to inside the house. Totally obsessed here.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, by this definition, my entire family is cat obsessed.
Don't get me wrong. I like the cat. He's a chill cat. Doesn't mess stuff up around the house. Very friendly and clean. But sometimes I would like to have my girlfriend to myself. I've tried closing the bedroom door at night, but the little Houdini got in somehow and woke up to him smiling at me smugly on top of my girlfriend's chest.
You actually had a cat, Sapphire, who used to be able to wiggle under the bathroom door, so like you'd shut her out and she was like...
That's probably how the cat did it.
Yeah, it's just like if the door gap is just big enough, it's like, I don't even know how she managed to get her body under, but she's like...
Anytime I mention toning it down with the cat, she gets all hurt and makes excuses like how she's had him since he was a kitten and they've been through a lot together. She's even gone as far to say that he was her lifeline during a period of major depression in her late 20s. Every time I back down and say, okay, I get it, he's family. The final straw came when we were talking about relocating together to another country. She wants to limit our search to countries that don't make pets fly under the plane, ruling out a ton of good countries. I finally stood up to her. I told her that pets fly under the plane all the time and it's perfectly safe. Told her that she was limiting our options for her own anxiety, not the cat's safety. He wouldn't be any safer between her feet while petting him the entire flight. She tried to argue that he's a senior pet, but I didn't back down. And I mean, he's only like 10. I showed her tons of airline literature about pet safety and whatnot. She tried to argue that physical safety isn't the same as psychological safety, and she thinks it'd be too traumatizing for the cat to go under the plane. Here is where I might be the jerk. I gave her a list of my top countries, all of which would require the cat to go under the plane. I told her that I wanted a future with her, but that I thought she needed to get serious help for her obsession with the cat, and to let me know if/when she decided to get that help so we could move forward with our lives. The ball is in her court. I've been staying with a buddy, but it's been about a week and she hasn't called. So I'm starting to wonder if maybe I should have helped her find a therapist first before I left.
Yeah, that's clearly the issue here.
I love the tone deafness of that. So, what do you think, Amber?
I think Opie is a jerk.
You know, I think the piece that I would like to highlight here is, I get it, he's family, right? Clearly, he doesn't get that the cat's family because, you know, if he did, then this wouldn't even be an issue at a certain point. And, like, I do get the frustration on his part being, like, limited in the countries that they can visit, but I don't know. I think that, really, she's the pet's owner and she has the final say in whether or not she's comfortable with something for her pet.
Exactly. And I feel like maybe with a little more creativity, they could figure out a solution. Like maybe they could fly into a different country that's nearby and then drive through. Like maybe get like a tourist thing or something like that.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be easy. It would probably be complicated, but if that was their big end goal, then maybe they could do something like that.
Yeah, especially with like the quarantines and stuff like that for pets. I know that a lot of countries have stuff like that. So that might be a complicating factor, but if they had the time, money, and energy, I'm sure they could figure something out, you know. But I think his big mistake here is giving her an ultimatum.
Yeah, definitely. And basically saying that she's obsessed.
Yeah.
Too. Like, I mean, her cat wakes her up in the morning. Like, that's a pretty normal cat behavior.
Yeah.
Her cat eats breakfast at the same time she does. I mean, it makes sense to feed your cat while you're making breakfast, especially if your cat is like, hey, feed me.
Yeah, I draw the line, though, at the catwalks.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's clearly like crazy cat lady territory.
My brother is a crazy cat lady.
I actually think that walking cats is pretty fun and cool.
Yeah, well, and I think it's just so adorable seeing little cats trotting along on their harnesses. So, I mean, it sounds like, yes, she does have a very strong attachment and maybe a little anxiety around her cat, but it doesn't sound unhealthy. It sounds like she's just really concerned for his well-being.
Yeah.
And like you said, that Opie really doesn't understand that he is family to her.
Yeah. So how about that, those people, anyone who would not fly their cat under a plane is clearly too obsessed with their cats.
Yeah, apparently. Well, we were watching the Sophia Nygaard's video where she and Tyler moved across country, and one of the reasons why they drove instead of flying was so that Krusty, their cat, could have a comfortable trip and not be traumatized.
And Krusty, he's like, what, 15 or something?
The vet estimates between 17 and 20.
17 and 20? He's a very old cat.
He's a very senior cat.
I mean, 10 isn't that old for a cat.
But it's getting there.
But it is getting there. And like, again, she's just doing what's best for her cat. And anything that happens to the cat, on that trip is going to be on her conscience. And so I can understand why she would want to take a safer route for the cat, especially if this cat was a lifeline to her and did help her out a lot.
Yeah.
So I really, I do understand his frustration. And, I do think that, this is, a hard situation. But giving her an ultimatum, being like, oh, yeah, you're too obsessed with your cat, just deal with it, is kind of a bad way of approaching it.
Well, and his whole attitude here, he ends with, I'm wondering if I should have helped her find a therapist. He's so sure that he's right. And, it just seems like he doesn't take her concerns seriously at all. He's like, you're just obsessed. You're the one who's doing something wrong. And so, no wonder she hasn't called him in a week.
Yeah.
All right, gonna have our tea break.
Oh, yeah, it's tea time. It's almost like a deja vu tea.
You have our little yellow-green Nessie.
Yeah, today. So today I have the yellow-green Nessie. And I don't know if I've shown this one on the channel before, but now this is one of the three. There's a magenta one as well. I think you would call it magenta.
I call it purple.
Purple, magenta.
It's kind of like maybe fuchsia was a better color name.
Fuchsia. The colors are ambiguous.
They are ambiguous.
You tell us, what color is it? I think in this camera, because I have actually turned up the saturation a bit.
Oh, it looks so different. It looks very yellow there, but on this screen it looks the yellow-green.
Yeah, that's because the saturation on that screen, the monitor over there, is higher. We're also a little more flushed in the this screen over here.
Yeah.
Although I'm probably a little flushed anyways. I tried adding a little color because I guess a little pale sometimes.
Because you're a vampire.
Can't make them think I'm not a vampire. I mean, make them think I'm a vampire. All right. Take it away.
Our next story is, are we the jerks for asking our parents to get divorced? Let me begin with some background. My biological parents had me on accident in a one-night stand, and my father left during the pregnancy but supported my mom and looked after me for small periods. My stepsister's biological mother died from childbirth. My mother and stepfather started dating when I was 5. After some time, they decided to introduce me and my stepsister, Jenny. The way they did it was we would be dressed up fancy, and my mom would make me give Jenny roses and such. Basically, we would go on double dates. Anyway, after our step-parents moved in together, Jenny and I stayed super close. Usually we would sleep in the same bed, etc. Our parents only got married about 4 years ago. As we entered the teen years, we started properly dating and have continued till now. I am now 25 and she is 24. We got engaged last year and are planning to get married soon. Have the wedding planned and paid for. However, when we were filling out the paperwork, we learned that as step-siblings, we couldn't be legally married. Spoke to a family lawyer. They said as our respective step-parents never adopted us, we would be legally unrelated if they get divorced, which would allow us to get married. We still will do the ceremony. The whole legal section marriage is that we would get some tax advantages that our parents would not get. So we asked our parents to get divorced so we could be legally married. My stepfather said he would consider it, but my mother freaked out saying I was disrespecting her marriage and started trying to contact the other family members to not attend our ceremony. Is my fiancé/stepsister and I the jerks, or is my mother and stepfather? Edit, not from the USA, will not be sharing our country, not here for legal advice, we have spoken to a lawyer. Edit 2, clarifying the timeline of their relationship. They started dating 20 years ago, moved in together 18 years ago. At this stage, my current stepfather financially supported my mother and I with some assistance from my biological father. 17 years ago, they had their marriage ceremony. 15 years ago, my mother allowed my biological father to end child support. 4 or 5 years ago, my mother and stepfather got legally married. Because they only bothered to do the paperwork recently, it led us to believe that it would not have been a major issue.
All right. Well, what do you think of this one?
This one is a very sticky situation, but
Yeah.
I don't think you can just ask your parents to get divorced.
Yeah, well, I think that's the big thing here is the asking them to get divorced so that you can get married is showing that
it's a major ask, and it is prioritizing your relationship over theirs. I mean, they've been together for 20 years, which is not an insignificant amount of time, even if they haven't been legally married that whole time. Like, they've been together. They've been a couple that long.
But it also sounds like the OP and their fiance have been almost together for that long, too.
Yeah, well, they've been together for probably, 10 years since their teen years, so... certainly they've been together a long time, too.
Yeah.
But it does, I think, probably to the mom feel like OP and his fiance are prioritizing their relationship over the one that the parents have.
Yeah. My big question is, why, this law, this is a very strange law, so would this still count if, OP, if they hadn't gotten married at first, their parents had just not ever gotten married, they get married and then their parents got married, what would happen in that situation?
Yeah, that's a good question, because, I don't think there probably aren't laws against in-laws marrying, because there's, no relation there.
Yeah.
So, maybe that's the answer. Maybe they're like, okay, Mom and Dad, we need to get divorced for 5 days so that we can get married, and then you can get remarried, and we'll have a big party. It would still be a major ask. I'm not recommending that. But if they are trying to find some loophole to allow both couples to be married, that might be a potential avenue.
Well, and I guess it really depends, if they're asking them to be divorced forever, or whatever's kind of going on here. And I think the reason why earlier here they said that they didn't know if it was going to be a problem. Where was that? They only got married 4 years ago, so they were actually legal adults by the time they got married. So they may not even realize that this was going to be an issue, because it's a little strange in the respect that their parents got married as legal adults, and so it stopped them from being able to get married.
Right, there's no biological relation here, or anything like that. So, from the perspective of not wanting biological relatives to marry, it doesn't really make sense.
And, it just is such a strange set of laws that hinge on some very strange particulars.
Right. So it's a very interesting story, and I don't know what the right answer is here.
Yeah.
Because I do think, of course, that asking your parents to get divorced is an overreach.
It is a bit.
But I don't know what the good answer is.
Everyone moved to a different country.
Yeah. That's the answer.
Well, if they did move to a different country, then that probably wouldn't.
I had that same thought.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not always convenient to move countries.
Well, if they got married in another country and then moved back, would their marriage be nullified?
That's a good question. Well, it probably wouldn't be legally recognized as the problem, because I know that when same-sex marriage was illegal in parts of the U.S. and not in other places, then people would go to another state to get married, but it wouldn't be legally recognized in their home state.
Yeah. All right. Our last letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for my reaction to my friend's baby's name? This is the first one of my friends to have a baby, so I haven't run into this before. My friend Kelsey just found out she's having a girl. She announced on social media with a picture of the ultrasound and a frame with the baby's name. She mentioned her favorite name had been Bindi, but she was told it was cultural appropriation, so she picked out something similar. The name Bundy Sky. The first thing that came to my mind was Ted Bundy.
Same.
I didn't comment or anything on the post. She reached out later and messaged me. So I can tell by your silence that you don't like the name. Why? Be honest. I responded, the first thing that came to my mind was the association with Ted Bundy. Sorry. She was extremely mad and sent off a long, angry message to me that I won't quote here, but the gist of it was that I have a sick mind, and just because I'm obsessed with messed up people doesn't mean that everyone is. And that's not what most people will think of. I'm not obsessed with Ted Bundy at all. It's just my first association that came to mind. Am I the jerk? Are you a jerk for answering a question honestly that someone asked you?
Yeah, I love how the friend was like, tell me honestly. And then Opie's like, well, it reminds me of Ted Bundy. And she's like, what? How dare you?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that was literally what came to my mind too when I saw the name. I was like, this reminds me of Ted Bundy. And it's not like I even am actively following Ted Bundy or anything like that. Like, I'm not even one of the true crime people. I like my horror fictional.
I mean, I follow Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
No.
But they did that movie about him not that long ago.
Did they?
Yeah, with Zac Efron, wasn't it? Ted Bundy?
I don't know. I didn't actually know they did a movie about Ted Bundy.
Well, I remember there was like a big controversy.
You're sure showing how little you follow Ted Bundy.
Well, I follow pop culture a little more than you.
Yeah, I'm just joking. I'm teasing you.
Well, yeah, but there was like a big controversy because people were like swooning over how hot he was or something like that.
I don't know that I would be swooning about that.
It was pointing out that this guy did horrible things and maybe don't swoon over him.
Yeah.
But he's definitely in the collective cultural consciousness.
I mean, if I heard Bundy, that would be kind of the first thing I would think of too.
And even if only one kid in her class thinks of that, they're gonna tell everyone, and it's gonna be all over the playground.
Yeah, exactly. Your kid is gonna be known as Ted Bundy or something like that.
Yeah, there's going to be some kind of association with Ted Bundy that's going to follow this child.
I mean, it would be like naming your kid Hitler.
Yeah, I mean, it's not quite that level, but it definitely...
Well, I'm not saying level of nefariousness. I'm just saying that if you named your kid something like that, it's probably going to be haunting them, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely the kind of name that, even unintentionally is going to have some very negative connotations. So I think in some ways it's good for OP to tell the friend this just so she's aware that unfortunately the name she loves may have some negative connotations.
And this wasn't even unsolicited.
Right. Her friend reached out to her. OP had not commented on the post.
OP just didn't say anything.
And her friend was like, well, you didn't say anything. Clearly that means you don't like this. Tell me.
Yeah.
And then...
Are you sure you want me to tell you? Are you really, really sure you want me to tell you?
So it's just I don't think Opie's done anything wrong here.
No.
She was just being honest.
And from her friend's perspective, I can see why this would be hurtful. I can understand, like, they wouldn't want they picked a name that they thought was a good compromise, I think, for the name that they originally wanted. You know, they originally wanted to name their child Bindi, and I can understand, like, so they compromised. They said, okay, I'm going to name my child Bundy. And they thought this was going to work out nicely, but then their friend comes along and is like, yeah, that reminds me of a serial killer.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think both can agree that OP didn't do anything wrong here. And, like, it's a sad situation that the friend has found a name that she loves, but it's probably time to reconsider.
Yeah, it might be. It might be. I mean, if she loves it enough, then I guess she'll name her child that.
I feel like as a parent, it's kind of your responsibility to try and pick I have to say this carefully, because obviously if you have names that are significant to you for cultural or religious reasons, that's different than like naming your kid Apple.
Yeah.
But like, so I don't want to say like you should pick names that your kid will never be teased for, because, you know, you may want to pick a name that is culturally significant to you that the other white kids are not going to be able to pronounce. They're just going to butcher. We're going to choose not to pronounce. But I feel like something that's so close to Ted Bundy, like maybe like as a parent, you really have to think about like, do you want your kid being known as like a serial killer?
Yeah.
Like,
that might be, and that might very well be something, like they might tease her for that or something like that. And I think that would be really unfortunate. And that would be something that could follow the kid around. But, all right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you to Amber for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
If you like this video, consider giving us a like. If you dislike this video, consider giving us a dislike. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.